Welcome back, everybody. As many of you know, I recently started fostering this little cutie right here. His name is Rocky, and I got to tell you, I'm learning a lot. And luckily, I've had Larissa here to answer so many of my questions. So she's joining me to share some of the realities that comes with fostering that I'm learning and that you're helping me learn. I mean, I have fostered animals before, but never with a dog already at the house. And there's just so much to learn, isn't there, Larissa?
There really is. And it's funny because I foster so much that I almost forget what it's like when you're starting fresh. And so watching you kind of get back into it after a couple years has reminded me of, oh, I remember those days. And I thought it's important to share that, you know, we say everybody should get involved, and everybody should. But yeah, there are things that, like, you learn as you go along.
It's true. And one of those things that we'll start with is the fact that, you know, we've got a house here in California, and it's got a yard. And our dog, Red, he's a homebody, and he doesn't really make many attempts to try and get out. So we started fostering Holly and a couple of the larger dogs. But the Pet Adoption Fund came to our house, and they said, you really got to beef up the fence to make sure that these dogs don't try to escape. So what I did is I had to get a little bit higher fencing, and I put up some extra little safety requirements so that there was no way that they could get out of the yard. And then when this little guy came into the picture, I actually also had to get some stakes to make sure that the fence sort of attached to the ground.
Oh, look at him.
But I'll say this, look at that slow motion. He is in heaven running around the yard. He literally hops and springs like it's almost an animated dog you'd see in cartoon. He's so sweet. And it's so great to see. So that was one of the things that we learned.
Well, that's an important one because having a secure home and yard is so important. Because if you're going to bring in a dog, a lot of times these dogs are a little confused about where they are. And so they can easily decide to go find mommy and daddy again and escape. So getting a secure yard is very important. So thank you for that.
And then the other interesting thing that you helped me out a lot with is the fact that Rocky here, he was, I don't know how to say it, but he just it was a little tricky with men, and me included. And I wasn't sure why. With women, he seemed to warm up to pretty quickly, a little bit slower with the guys. And you said, and you told me, and you can actually say it for me.
It's very common, first of all. You know, men are sometimes a little bit bigger, more foreboding to a small dog, mind you, I will say. And Rocky's case in particular, he was found in a car with some transients and other dogs. And my guess, and this happens a lot with dogs that live with homeless people, that every time men came at him or came over to him, it was most likely to kick them out of the area.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was never associated with something positive and good and rewarding. And so when little Rocky or any dogs in those positions are faced with a tall guy walking over to them, they recoil. They get a little nervous.
But he's come around so much. It's so good to see. He literally, like when we're walking around, he wants to merge with me. Like he's such a loving, beautiful, sweet guy. So it's so good to see. So he literally won't leave my side. That's me this morning at my script read here because I came to work. He literally wants to be with me all day. And this is really the first break that I've had. And you know why? It's because Larissa the dog whisperer showed up. And now he's perfectly happy with her.
No, but this is so important because, you know, we talk about all these things like we just mentioned a couple of the slight challenges that you deal with learning the fostering world. But the transformation you see is so rewarding and makes it all worth it. And, you know, seeing him from day one being scared and now won't leave your side when see, he heard me.
Yeah, he did.
It must feel good.
But it feels so great. And one of the things that you and I talked about a lot is the interesting thing that we got to change our perspective. We're so used to pets sort of entertaining us. They're there for us. They make us feel good. But really, when you're dealing with a little guy like this, I just have to shift that and be like, I am here for him. Like, I'm trying to save his life. Everything, like, and when I did that, I was more patient with the little, you know, the little pee-pee mistakes or the little potty training things or the fact that he was a little bit hesitant. Lucas loves him. That's Lucas's girlfriend, Mia, who he's just jumping and having fun with. You know, when you change your perspective like that, all of a sudden your patience increases. And it's like, of course I'm going to do this for this little guy. Now, with that said, there has been sort of an unlikely challenge that we experienced, maybe unlikely to me, maybe not so much to you, but that our dog, Red, who I've talked about many times, they get along fine. In fact, they have fun and they play together sometimes, run around the yard. But he's had some sort of emotional issues with it. He's really become visibly depressed. He's not eating as much. He's not wagging his tail. He doesn't have the same energy. And even though they're coexisting and they're getting along, and this guy is super sweet, I can tell that it's been very, very difficult for Red to have him in the house.
He's an only child.
Yeah, he's an only
and he's
child.
saying, Dad, who is this one that you brought in who's bouncing all over the place? And look, that happens often. When you have an existing animal and you bring in another animal, you learn a lot about your animal because you see how they react to it. And sometimes that means fostering isn't going to work long term for you. You'll foster Rocky. He's doing so well. You are helping him find that forever home, and you are not by any means failing because Red's not taking it so well. So you'll work with Rocky until he finds his adoption ever after, and then maybe this is something you won't do forever. That's okay. I want you to remember this is not a failure. You are doing so much good. And Red, by the way, will get used to things that if they do continue, he'll start eating again. He'll never starve himself.
I mean,
but yeah, it is interesting to see how some dogs love having other dogs around and some don't.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm hoping.
And he's your priority. He is your baby, and you need to take care of your baby.
And I also want to say before we go here that it's interesting, just tell everybody what really fostering means with respect to, coming from a rescue versus a shelter. And because we just use that word so much, and maybe people don't know exactly what we're referring to.
Yeah, I would absolutely say if you're a newbie when it comes to fostering, go to a rescue. Create a relationship with a rescue, like Vanderpump Dogs is where you got Rocky from. And that way they're your support system. Shelters are amazing, but they take in hundreds and hundreds of animals and can't always give you that same one-on-one time. So they won't be able to help you as much find that forever after, whereas a small rescue can do some more of the legwork to help find him his forever home, and hopefully somebody watching maybe falls in love.
That's right.
But anyway, that's my advice. You go to a rescue versus a shelter if you're just starting out.
Absolutely. It's been such a great experience, Larissa. Thank you so much for all that you do. But personally, also helping us with this little guy right here. And you can see all the dogs that we obviously showcase all the time at HallmarkChannel.com, SavedByTheL.com. And come on back because we're going to remind everybody about our four-legged friends that we met earlier today, too. Not just this guy, but a couple more. Come on back.